A warm welcome back to your latest industry recap. Air Canada is expecting many new aircraft to be delivered. Meanwhile, Etihad Airways are sending their A380 to another European city. And there's important updates on Japan Airlines. Why not begin with Etihad, who have officially recommenced flying an A380 to Paris Charles de Gaulle as part of a continued effort to reintegrate the world's largest passenger plane into active service across its route network. The Abu Dhabi-based airline announced its intent to deploy the aircraft to Paris, you may recall, in April of this year. At the time, Etihad confirmed Paris would act as the third city to welcome back the A380 after London Heathrow and New York JFK. The service is going to operate as EY3132, and thanks to the A380's deployment, Etihad actually says that the route capacity, which originates from its home in Abu Dhabi, will increase by 31% and complement the 787-9 Dreamliner, which will join the service from the 15th of January next year. These two aircraft both have a 3-class configuration. However, the all-important residence on the A380 is the world's only 3-room suite in the sky and is what Etihad says will take travelers by storm. This all-important upper deck suite features the lobby, a lounge area for first and business class guests, and many other amenities that make it a highly regarded experience that unfortunately I'll never see. The residence is a perfect example of what, though, an Airbus A380 customer can really look for. The significant amount of space available means airlines can get creative with the overall space and release highly lucrative upper class offerings. However, increasing service to France, back to the topic at hand, is a real significant development, with Etihad now seeing greater connectivity towards Europe, something it's been targeting for some time, with the airline already upgrading certain flights to specific cities to now offer double daily frequency to the likes of Frankfurt, Manchester, Barcelona, Madrid, and Rome, and that is only to just name a few. Etihad is forecasting strong growth across European cities and is therefore looking to build upon the momentum it has created to ensure that it can continue advancing. Etihad Airways previously believed the A380 had no place within its fleet. This a decision prompted by those devastating effects felt from the global pandemic. You couldn't necessarily blame them for having this stance. But when demand surged back, the company was forced to reevaluate its commitment to the aircraft. While ordering next-generation aircraft has proved easy, getting these planes delivered on time has been another issue entirely. And as a result, Etihad has had to use its available resources to find a way to cope. Eventually, the decision arose to return the A380 to service, to restore capacity towards London Heathrow only. So basically, this strict decision would see the aircraft return to just one city. The carrier, though, quickly determined that other significant markets would need the high-capacity aircraft and adjusted itself accordingly, and by the end of this year, they made it very clear that they wanted this plane to be featured across 3 highly lucrative markets right around the world, really signalling their intent. As for Japan Airlines, well, they've published an update on their business performance, with the underlying focus on the overall fall of net profit by almost 20% in the first 6 months. The group has faced many external factors that have impacted its ability to operate, including a pretty hefty run of typhoons, which was also cited by All Nippon Airways in their most recent release. However, internally, Japan Airlines says that investments it made didn't really pan out as intended either. Some of the core results in the airline's release show that revenue increased 9.9% year over year to Japanese yen 901 billion, with operating expenses also increasing at least for the second quarter. Japan Airlines says that higher fuel costs are really a main attribute to the increase in costs alongside the weakness of the Japanese yen. All these things can be linked. While JAL has its own circumstances, many airlines right around the world would say that they've felt quite similar in regards to their operating expenses increasing for many reasons. This has stemmed in some instances from the rectification of contracts with employee groups that have risen overall wages and bonuses businesses, alongside a bit of a challenging economic climate. But when is it not that? Second quarter profits increased across all aspects of the business, whether focusing on full-service operators, such as the mainline Japan Airlines, or the many low-cost units and other airlines that make up the broader JAL group. Other elements of focus that they noted were their mileage and commerce sectors. International passenger revenue increased by 8.3% year over year. Japan Airlines says this maintained a high unit price level due to incredibly strong inbound demand and the continued recovery of outbound business demand from Japan. And as you can probably see from the footage that's been on your screen, not just in today's video, but across the last few weeks, I was recently in Japan filming content for this channel, which I hope you have been enjoying. So no doubt I contributed positively there. Being a tourism hotspot in the last few years, well, it has meant the results don't really come as a shock. Domestic revenue also increased 2% year over year. However, there were some downsides, such as overall leisure demand domestically, which Japan Airlines says didn't necessarily grow at the expected rate that maybe they wanted. So to combat this, they are very confident that they can turn it around through the implementation of promotional campaigns. They think things will therefore stabilize into future quarters. Cargo was another important emphasis on the results. International freight efforts advanced further, with an emphasis on high-value cargo, such as pharmaceuticals, for transport to China, broader Asia, and even as far as the United States. Domestic cargo was also important, as they looked to offer flights from Tokyo, Haneda, 13 flights a day beginning there in August. Over to Air Canada, who have published its investor overview presentation for 2024 and the third quarter, and provided us with some updates on its future. A core focus for the Canadians' future is fleet development and renewal efforts, with the airline expecting many aircraft deliveries in the coming years to facilitate that. Through strategic investments in wide and narrow body planes, they're expecting 90 planes to be delivered over the next 5 years, taking the airline to the turn of the decade. Yes, I am having a little bit of a chuckle to myself, not because this target doesn't make sense, but just because looking at the last 5 or so years, how many of these 90 are actually going to be delivered in the next 5 years? Maybe all 90, but based on track record, probably not going to pan out as exactly as expected. This is why I've been saying so frequently how tiresome it can be for airlines to forecast things. They've got to put these things together, but it doesn't mean it's going to eventuate how they intended. The bulk, at least, of the new deliveries are going to primarily occur from 2026 to 2029, so you'd like to think by then supply chain issues will have stabilized. Looking at 2024, they're hopeful of many narrow-body planes. 2025 is expected to be another quiet year, but interestingly, they do hope that they'll receive their first 2 A321XLRs, but it really is 2026 when things will ramp up. They're expecting to take on the 787-10. This is your high-capacity Dreamliner variant that is going to be crucial for long-term fleet growth targets. 18 units are expected to be delivered across the 3 years. Meanwhile, many more A321XLR jets are going to be delivered, with 28 further units over a 3-year period. The airline did tease more international destinations, including my home of Melbourne, Australia, which has seemingly now been teased for years with no firm announcement. A lot of that comes down to aircraft availability and asset management. These aircraft hopefully coming in are going to ease pressures on existing planes and mean that they can finally move forward with all the routes that they have been teasing. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for another industry recap.
And we'll fly.